So before we move on to Project 2, which is our top-down shooter, let's just learn one more new concept by making changes to our first project, and then we can apply these concepts in Project 2. So one of the things we did was we changed the original input system, the one that's going to be depreciated, to the enhanced input system. Now we can use that in Project 2. Let's look at another concept, and that is a concept of blueprint interfaces. So currently in our blueprint, if I was to open up BP first person character and BP coin. So our blueprint first person character has a function called increment score to change the score. And our BP coin, when we want to call this function, first we cast to it and then we increment the score. Now, I mentioned earlier when we learned about casting that casting is technically not correct. It is correct because it works, but it's not the most ideal way to do something. There's a few reasons for this. One of the smaller reasons is that there is a performance overhead to this. When we're using casting like this, it's perfectly fine. But if we were using casting on a tick event, or if we were casting from a lot of places at once, that can tend to be a problem, and it's not something we want. The other reason is, well, casting can fail, and if it does fail, we need to do something about it. And casting text technically fails gracefully, which means nothing happens. But, just knowing that casting can fail means that it should give us an error. Not the best idea. And finally, the main reason really we don't want to cast is casting has something called tight coupling. When I cast a BP first person character, I am only casting to BP first person character. That is this character here. Now imagine I had 3 or 4 different pawn classes. How, I would need to run more than one piece of code, cast to one. If that fails, try casting to the other. If that fails, try casting to the other. So really the big issue here is that when I want to run this increment score function, I could have many different types of characters that have a increment score function. But right now I am only casting the BP first person character and running the function from there. So this tight coupling makes our code not very reusable, not very modular. And so there are better ways to go about this. Casting is one, it's a tool in the toolbox. It is technically not the best tool for what we're doing here. Let's look at another way. In Unreal, we have something called blueprint interfaces. An interface, we can think about it as like a plug that we plug into multiple things, and anyone can send a signal on that plug and someone else can read it. We'll take a look at how that works. So to start, I'm going to make a blueprint interface. I'm going to right click, go down to blueprints and blueprint interface. Interfaces don't have a prefix, they usually have a suffix, which is just the word interface. So I would call mine player interface to give me the idea that this blueprint interface is meant for things to communicate with the player. All a blueprint interface is just a list of functions. It's just a list of functions that we can either call from somewhere or implement somewhere. Again, we'll see this in action. When we open an interface, a new one, it comes with a function. If I was to delete this, it's just this screen here, and I could add a new function to it. It just came in with one. So I'm going to call this increase score because that's what I want my coins to do. Currently, it's called increment score in my player functions. I just want to name it something slightly different, just not to confuse us. And really, that's all I need. I have this increase score function, and all I need is that. Next, I need to be able to tell everyone that's going to either implement or use this interface that, they should associate it with them. To do that, first I go into my BP first person character, class settings, and down here it says interfaces, and there's implemented interfaces. Currently there are no interfaces, so I just want to add one. I called mine player interface. And I compile it, and you can see I had my functions, and just under that now there's a new section called interfaces. If I open that, there's the function that I made for the in my interface, increase score. Oh, there it is. If I double click this, it just pops in a new event that is called event increase score. And so really all I want to do in this event is whatever we did in my increment score. I'm just going to copy these nodes. And we just want to run them when we do our increase score. Let me move it closer to everything else. And there you go. Our first person character has just implemented this interface. It was as simple as that. They just, we make the interface instead of making the functions in our player. We make the functions in the interface, add it to our player using class settings, and it just pops up and we just run it like any other normal event, do whatever we want with this. In this case, I want to increase the score. Next, in the BP coin, let's do the exact same thing. Class settings, implement an interface. We want to call the player interface, compile it. And again, it's here. There's our event increase score, but I don't want to run this as an event. The coin itself is not going to be increasing its score. The coin doesn't have a score. We want to call the BP first person's player interface. So let's actually move this stuff up here and disconnect it. And I just want to search for increase score. And there's a couple options here: event increase score, call function increase score, and player interface increase score. What I want to do is just uncheck this context sensitive, and I want to call increase score with a message around it. And when we click on it, we can see it's a message because it has this little envelope in the corner. And a message really just takes a target and it will send the message across. It's going to ask us to run the target's blueprint BP first person character. And all I need to do here is plug my other actor into the target, increase its score, and then destroy the actor. And really that's it. We're calling the increase score method on this other actor target. We know this other actor target is going to have increased score because we check its tag. And when we call this increase score, just like we did with increment score, it's just going to run this function, set the UI, and then we destroy the coin after that. And it's as simple as that, and it should just work now when we try it. So let's go back to the level, and let's hit play. And once it loads up, if I was to run into my coins, you can see that it works. Just like before, it works perfectly fine. Now, technically, we don't actually even need this. Well, we do need this branching here because the coin is going to destroy if it touches anything. But we don't really even need the branching to check to send this message, is kind of what I was getting across. Unlike casting, which can fail, if we send a message to someone that doesn't implement the interface, it doesn't fail. Nothing happens. And it's generally considered safe. So when we do want to interact from one actor to another, it is best to use a blueprint interface. And now the other big benefit of using this interface is if I had, again, multiple different types of players, I don't need to sit and try each one. I don't need to cast a first person player, cast a third person player, cast to, I don't know, car player. We can just send the message across, and if whatever we're sending it to implements that event, it's just going to run. And that makes our code, again, more modular, more versatile. Just like we did, for example, with the coins here, with increased score. Ideally, that's how we would set up this kill box. Currently our collision box casts to the player and runs a respawn event. Well, really, we don't want to run the respawn event like that. We want to run it through here. We would make a function, call it respawn. Respawn. Oh my god. All right, I'll just call it respawn event. I'm not sure why it's not letting me. Whatever, we call it respawn event. And in our first person character, I'm going to make a new respawn event. Delete my current respawn event and just call this one here. Then in BP collision, same thing. First, we want to implement the interface. So player interface. Pull out, compile it. And search for respawn event. Again, to see the message, we just have to remove this context sensitive. And call respawn event message. I don't need this anymore. We don't even need the cast. Instead, when it's true, we just run it. And there you go. That was a very simple video. I hope that was straightforward. It might feel a little confusing at first, but the more we just start using these interfaces instead of casting, the more familiar and simple that it gets. It's not very, it's not a super in-depth concept. All it really is a list of functions that we can either call from somewhere, or we can implement it as an event where we can run code through it. And when we call it, we can call it on someone else. It's a little, very slightly more efficient than casting, but most importantly, it's versatile because we can use one interface and send the event to multiple different type of actors without actually checking what that actor's type is. Instead, each actor will implement the function as they see fit. Anyway, that was a quick video on converting our first-person project from casting to using interfaces. Thank you for watching.